The moment you learn that the one you love is hiding a bitter secret, your world shatters, and nothing will ever be the same. Before we dive in, don't forget to like this video, leave a thoughtful comment, and subscribe if you want more. Stories like this. In the early light of a quiet Ouagadougou morning, President Ibrahim Traoré prepared for what he believed would be another day of steadfast service to his nation. Every detail of the palace routine was meticulously orchestrated, a delicate balance of political duty and personal solace. Yet behind the calm facade of his private residence, a storm was quietly gathering. For generations, Traoré had upheld the values of honesty, courage, and humility, values instilled in him by mentors and hardened through decades of public service. But nothing in his storied career could have prepared him for the betrayal that was about to emerge from the very heart of his personal life. It began with a series of subtle oddities, a furtive glance here, a hushed phone call there, that he had initially dismissed as the quirks of a busy schedule. His wife, Aissata, had always been a pillar of support, the confidant with whom he shared his deepest triumphs and fiercest doubts. Yet, over the past few weeks, something had changed. A misplaced envelope here, a concealed folder there, the smallest details that, when strung together, began to form a pattern too consistent to ignore. One rainy afternoon, while reviewing confidential documents in his study, Traoré discovered a hidden compartment behind a row of ancient books. Nestled within was a collection of encrypted messages, surveillance photos, and covert recordings that revealed an unimaginable truth. Aissata had been spying on him. The shock of that discovery hammered into his heart like a relentless drum, each beat echoing with the sting of betrayal. Traoré's mind raced as he processed the evidence laid bare before him. How could the woman he had trusted with his hopes, his dreams, and the very secrets of his soul be complicit in acts of espionage? The revelation was not a simple miscommunication or a momentary lapse in judgment. It was a calculated deceit that seemed orchestrated from within his closest circle. As he pored over every detail, his eyes darted over the damning records. Phone, logs that mapped clandestine meetings, digital correspondence with unidentified contacts, and even images of Aissata conversing intently with shadowy figures in unfamiliar surroundings. A maelstrom of emotions surged within him, hurt, disbelief, and an overwhelming sense of isolation. Yet even as the sting of betrayal threatened to overwhelm his spirit, the steely resolve that had defined his illustrious leadership began to awaken. Traoré had built his life on the pillars of accountability and transparency, and now he faced the most personal test of those principles. His duty to his nation was intertwined with his personal duty to understand the full scope of this treachery. Had his wife been coerced into this clandestine role by sinister external forces, or had she willingly become entangled in a web of deceit? The questions gnawed at him, leaving him torn between the raw pain of personal betrayal and the greater imperative of national security. As the shock began to subside, Traoré realized that turning away was not an option. He summoned his most trusted advisors and initiated a discreet internal inquiry. Late into the night, in the solitude of his private study, he meticulously reviewed every shred of evidence. His thoughts were a mix of painful introspection and steely determination. In the secret meetings that followed, the president spoke in hushed, measured tones, carefully outlining his resolve not to allow personal anguish to cloud his judgment. "Our nation stands on the fragile foundation of trust," he remarked solemnly to his circle of confidants. "Today, I must confront the possibility that even the closest of hearts can harbor dark secrets. We shall pursue the truth with the same vigilance we apply to any threat against our people." In that moment, the personal collided with the political. The stakes were no longer confined to the sorrow of a fractured relationship. They now held implications for the integrity of his leadership and, by extension, the future of Burkina Faso. The evidence was not just a personal affront, it was a stark reminder that the battle for truth is often fought on multiple fronts. Traoré's inner diary, a ledger of both triumphs and heartaches, filled with entries from his formative years when he first learned that integrity must be defended at all costs, became the silent witness to his current torment. "I have learned that every scar, every moment of despair is an opportunity for renewal," he wrote in a trembling yet resolute hand. "This betrayal, as deep as it cuts, cannot define the course of our destiny. Instead, it shall galvanize our fight for a future rooted in truth and justice." Outside the confines of his worry-worn study, the city remained oblivious to the private agony of its leader. Yet rumors began to circulate as subtle nudges in conversation, whispers that hinted at the possibility of a deep-seated conspiracy. Some suggested that Aissata might have been exploited by political adversaries seeking to undermine Traoré's formidable reputation. Others speculated about personal motives, questioning whether the burdens of power had twisted the heart of the woman who had once been his anchor. In hushed tones over cups of steaming tea in the palace gardens, aides and advisers speculated on the implications of the discovery, the potential fallout, and the ripple effect it might have on the public's trust in their leader. Throughout these tumultuous days, President Traoré maintained a dignified silence in public. When asked about the incident, he would only offer a gentle, knowing smile, as if each smile concealed the weight of 1,000 unanswered questions. In private moments, however, he struggled with the duality of his emotions, the pain of personal betrayal and the relentless call of duty. This conflict was not one he could simply shrug off. It was a crucible that would test the very metal of his character. How could he reconcile the ideals of love and loyalty with the harsh realities of espionage and deceit? Was it possible that, in this modern age of political warfare, even the sanctity of a marriage could be compromised by the demands of power? At length, Traoré's resolve hardened into a clear, unyielding purpose to uncover the full truth behind this betrayal and to ensure that regardless of the personal cost, the integrity of his office and the safety of his nation remained unassailable. In a quiet moment of introspection, standing alone on the palace balcony as dusk painted the sky in shades of melancholy and hope, he silently vowed to himself that the truth would emerge, even if it meant facing the person he loved most. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with emotional peril and political complexity, but he was determined that no shadow of deceit, however deeply it might cut, would ever compromise the future he had so lovingly built for his country. At this pivotal juncture, if you find yourself captivated by this unfolding saga of love, betrayal, and the relentless pursuit of truth, please take a moment to like this video, share your thoughts in the comments below, and subscribe to follow the next chapter of this extraordinary journey. Your engagement fuels our collective quest for justice and transparency. In the quiet hours that followed, as the palace hummed with the subdued activities of late-night security briefings and whispered consultations, Traoré began to meticulously forge a plan. Every decision was weighed with the gravity of a man who had always placed his duty above his own desires. He called for a comprehensive audit of palace communications, the discreet appointment of expert investigators, and, most importantly, a personal, heartfelt conversation with Aissata. His inner circle understood that this was more than just an investigation. It was a reckoning with the hardest truths of leadership. The balance between personal pain and public duty was delicate, and every step taken had to be measured with both compassion and resolve. As the investigation quietly deepened, so too did the moral quandary at the center of his soul. Memories of their early days together, a time of shared dreams and unspoken promises, clashed painfully with the harsh reality unveiled by the damning documents. Traoré recalled the gentle cadence of Aissata's voice as she spoke of loyalty and sacrifice, the warmth in her eyes during moments of quiet intimacy, and the unyielding support she had once given him in the furthest hours of doubt. Yet now, those same memories were tainted by the revelation of clandestine meetings and secret exchanges. The emotional toll was immense, yet it also steeled his determination to face the future with clarity. Every page of evidence he reviewed, every piece of conversation he revisited, deepened his resolve to uncover the full story. Had she been acting under duress, a tool manipulated by forces beyond her control, or had personal ambition drawn her into the labyrinth of espionage? These questions reverberated in his mind as he prepared for the inevitable confrontation, a moment that promised to unlock the mysteries of their shared past and dictate the future course of his administration. In those long, sleepless nights, punctuated by the silent hum of palace corridors, President Ibrahim Traoré found strength in the unyielding spirit of his people. Each beat of his heart, each tear shed in private, was a testament to the resilience demanded by leadership in times of profound personal crisis. The betrayal, as devastating as it was, became a catalyst for introspection, an opportunity to revisit the core principles of honesty, loyalty, and sacrifice that had defined his rise to power. He knew in his heart that the truth, no matter how painful, was the only salve that could heal the wound of deception. And so, with a heavy yet determined heart, Traoré steeled himself to face the looming confrontation. Every plan was laid with precision, every move calculated to reveal not just the identity of those who orchestrated this insidious act, but also the underlying motives that drove a woman he once adored to a path of secrecy. The lines between personal affection and political duty blurred, melding into a singular purpose that transcended pain, to safeguard the integrity of a nation built on trust, even if it meant confronting the deepest betrayal imaginable. As dawn crept once again over the horizon, painting the skies of Ouagadougou with soft hues of hope and renewal, President Traoré closed his eyes and took a slow, determined breath. The journey ahead would be fraught with emotional peril and difficult truths, but he was resolved that no matter how bitter the revelation, the pursuit of justice and truth would prevail. His resolve to transform this wound into a source of strength and, ultimately, renewal for his beloved country would be the guiding light through the darkness. In the swirling mists of betrayal and despair, a single question echoed relentlessly in President Traoré's heart. How could the one person he trusted above all be waging war with his own secrets? Before we dive in, don't forget to like this video, leave a thoughtful comment and subscribe if you want more stories like this. The days after the devastating discovery unfolded like an endless night. In the silence of his private quarters, where once warm memories of shared laughter and whispered dreams resided, Traoré found himself surrounded by a chilling array of evidence. Every document, every covert image of his wife Aissata in clandestine meetings deepened the fissure in his soul. The encrypted messages spoke of meetings in obscured locations, secret rendezvous with unfamiliar figures, and a network of communication that was as intricate as it was deceitful. With each revelation, the once unshakable foundation of his trust eroded further, leaving behind a raw, agonizing vulnerability that pierced him far more deeply than any physical wound ever could. Determined not to let the corrosive poison of betrayal define him, the president summoned those who had stood by him through countless trials. In the dimly lit strategy room, where maps and charts spoke silently of both hope and hardship, his closest advisers gathered. Among them was Colonel Diallo, the stoic intelligence officer who had seen the darkest corners of political intrigue, and a dedicated few who had served as his emotional anchors. With a voice steady yet laden with pain, Traoré outlined the evidence he had discovered. As he spoke, each word was punctuated by the weight of disillusionment and the fervent yearning for the truth. "This isn't just about a personal betrayal," he began, his eyes gleaming with a mix of sorrow and resolve. "It is a test of our commitment to integrity and a call to purge deceit from the heart of our leadership." The atmosphere in that room was heavy with unspoken questions. How had Aissata, whose gentle words had often been the source of his solace, become entwined in a dangerous web of espionage? Was she acting out of her own volition, or had external forces exploited her vulnerabilities? The advisors speculated, their voices low and cautious, about how political adversaries might have turned personal affections into fatal leverage. As whispers of blackmail, coercion, and ideological subversion filled the space, Traoré realized that the investigation must leave no stone unturned. The betrayal was not merely a wound to his personal life. It posed a threat to the very fabric of national security and the cherished values upon which his presidency was built. In the days that followed, a delicate and rigorous inquiry was set in motion. Under the strictest security, discreet operatives combed through every trace of digital communication and every shred of physical evidence stored within the palace's confidential archives. Traoré ordered a full-scale audit of internal communications. He even confided in a trusted circle of external experts, whose independent scrutiny could provide clarity free from the entanglements of personal pain. Late into the night, in the solitude of his study, he pored over the evidence with a scholar's meticulous precision. Each record not only confirmed his worst suspicions, but also hinted at a more elaborate design, a design that might have entangled his wife unwillingly, or worse, revealed her to be a willing player in a treacherous plot. As the investigation advanced, the blurred line between duty and desire became increasingly stark. The president's mind was a battlefield. On one side, the echoes of cherished memories when Aissata was his confidant, his partner in dreams and ambition. On the other, the harsh, unmistakable reality of betrayal. Every night, as the moon cast its solemn glow through the high windows of his residence, Traoré wrestled with this dichotomy. In quiet moments, he recalled the promises they had once made to each other, the belief that love and loyalty were inviolable. Now those promises were shattered, laying bare the fragility at the core of human trust. Yet, amid the swirling turmoil, Traoré embraced a profound truth he had learned early in his tumultuous journey to leadership. True strength is born from facing adversity head-on. With his heart heavy yet determined, he resolved that the truth would emerge no matter how painful it might be. In a rare moment of introspection, he penned a letter, a private journal entry that reflected the inner workings of his soul. A leader's duty extends beyond mere survival, he wrote in a deliberate, measured script. It is my solemn responsibility to expose deceit, to learn from betrayal, and to emerge stronger in service of my people. No shadow of duplicity, no matter how dark, may ever dim the light of justice and truth. This declaration, though bitter in its necessity, ignited within him an unwavering resolve to not only uncover the full extent of the conspiracy, but also to transform this personal anguish into a catalyst for the nation's renewal. Midway through this arduous investigation, an unexpected twist emerged. Security operatives discovered a series of suspicious connections between Aissata's covert activities and a network of external political entities known for their subversive tactics. It appeared that her spying was not a solitary action driven purely by personal motivation. Rather, the encrypted messages hinted at contact with individuals operating under the auspices of an international faction with vested interests in undermining the government. The revelation was as shocking as it was complex. It raised an unsettling question. Was Aissata merely a pawn in a much larger game, manipulated by those who sought to exploit the vulnerabilities of even the most intimate bonds? The notion that she might have been coerced adds an additional layer of sorrow to the unfolding tragedy. Traoré soon found himself caught between the desire for harsh reprisal and the need for compassionate understanding, a duality that tested the very essence of his leadership. During a confidential briefing with Colonel Diallo and his inner circle, the topic was approached with both clinical detachment and palpable emotional undercurrents. "We must consider every possibility," Colonel Diallo urged, his tone firm, yet empathetic. It is conceivable that Aysata was forced into this role, her actions a result of blackmail or existential threat. The truth will require us to navigate these murky waters with both justice and mercy. If you're finding this layered tale of loyalty and deception as gripping as we are, please take a moment to like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe. Your engagement not only inspires us, but also strengthens our shared journey toward truth and transparency. In the following days, President Traoré arranged for a discreet, private meeting with Aysata, a confrontation that had long been dreaded, but was now inevitable. The meeting was set in a secluded wing of the palace, far from prying eyes and the relentless scrutiny of the media. The atmosphere was heavy with unsaid words and unhealed wounds as Traoré entered the modest sitting room. There, under the soft light of a single chandelier, he found his wife, her demeanor calm, yet her eyes shrouded in an opaque veil of sorrow and guilt. The moment their gazes met, the room seemed to shrink, laden with the enormity of the unspoken truth. "Aysata," Traoré began, his voice a subtle mix of anguish and quiet authority, "I have uncovered secrets that pierce the core of our bond. I know you have been spying on me." His words, though measured, carried the weight of heartbreak and the determination of a man who refused to let betrayal fester unchecked. Aysata's eyes widened briefly, a silent admission of her inner turmoil, before a veil of tears began to glisten on her cheeks. For long moments, the silence was deafening. Then her voice, trembling with regret, broke the stillness. "I am so sorry, Ibrahim. I never wished to hurt you. I was trapped in a situation with no apparent escape. They threatened everything I held dear if I did not comply." Her confession, laced with vulnerability and pain, sent shockwaves through Traoré's already battered soul. The revelation that her actions might have been born from coercion rather than pure treachery added layers of complexity to his anguish. In that charged moment, years of shared love, trust, and dreams collided with the harsh, unforgiving reality of betrayal. Traoré felt the familiar sting of disappointment, yet also a reluctant compassion for the woman who had once been his anchor. It was a moment that demanded not only a leader's resolve, but also a husband's understanding. "Tell me everything," he said softly, his voice neither harsh nor forgiving, but filled with an earnest desire for the complete truth. "I need to know how deep this darkness goes, so we may find a way to bring it into the light." Thus began a long, painful conversation, a cathartic unveiling of the circumstances that had entrapped Aysata. She spoke of relentless pressure, whispered threats from unidentified figures, and a mounting sense of desperation that overrode her love and loyalty. Every word she uttered was punctuated by the tremor of guilt and regret. For hours, the couple navigated the treacherous terrain of accusations, confessions, and bitter realities. The conversation was as much a reckoning as it was a quest for understanding, a journey through the labyrinth of human frailty and the inescapable pull of duty. Outside the confines of that intimate meeting, the investigation continued to unravel the broader threads of deception. More evidence emerged, linking the clandestine communications to international operatives and revealing a sophisticated scheme designed to exploit the vulnerabilities of even the highest echelons of power. As each new piece of the puzzle was laid before him, President Traoré grew increasingly determined to dismantle the network of intrigue that had invaded his personal and political life. His resolve hardened, steeled by the belief that truth and justice must prevail, even against the mightiest of adversaries. In the aftermath of that raw, painful conversation, Traoré and Aysata were left with a heavy silence, a silence filled with heartache, but also with the faint hope of reconciliation. The path ahead was fraught with uncertainty. How could they rebuild trust from the ruins of deception? Yet in that same silence lay a subtle promise, a promise that even the deepest betrayals might someday be healed by truth, transparency, and a steadfast commitment to love and honor. As dusk settled over Ouagadougou, President Traoré retreated once more into solitude to contemplate the days past. His heart, scarred and tempered by adversity, now beat with a resolve to use this painful ordeal as a crucible for personal and national transformation. He knew that the forthcoming challenges, be they political, emotional, or moral, required him to be both a guardian of his nation and a compassionate steward of his own humanity. Every tear shed and every anguished sigh had kindled within him a fierce determination to ensure that no act of betrayal, however personal, would again threaten the collective integrity of his people. At this pivotal juncture, as the investigation wound its intricate threads and the full gravity of the betrayal came into sharper focus, Traoré understood that the journey toward healing was only just beginning. He vowed to remain unwavering in his pursuit of truth, to confront every shadow with the light of reason and empathy, and to lead his nation with wisdom forged in the crucible of adversity. If you're moved by this complex tale of love, betrayal, and the relentless search for redemption, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Your support fuels this exploration of truth and inspires us all to face our own internal battles with courage and compassion. Indeed, some truths cut so deeply that even as they unravel our world, they illuminate the path to an unforeseen renewal. Before we dive in, don't forget to like this video, leave a thoughtful comment, and subscribe if you want more stories like this. In the weeks following that agonizing confrontation, the corridors of the presidential palace seemed to whisper with the weight of unspoken sorrows and resolute determination. President Ibrahim Traoré, burdened by the sting of betrayal, yet steeled by his lifelong commitment to truth and justice, faced the final crucible of his personal and political journey. The private confrontation with his wife, Aissata, had left scars that ran deep. Every word exchanged in that secret chamber, a place now charged with memories of love and deception, echoed relentlessly in his mind, even as he grappled with the shattering revelation that the woman who had once been his closest confidant had become entangled in espionage. Traoré recognized that this betrayal, as painful as it was, could serve as the impetus for transformation. In the aftermath of that night, when Aissata's voice trembled with remorse and whispered confessions of coercion and fear, a heavy silence had fallen over the palace. The torrential downpour outside, washing away the remnants of a tumultuous day, mirrored the cleansing process that Traoré knew he must undergo within his own soul. Alone in the quiet solitude of his private study, he sat by the window as rain streaked down in mournful rivulets against the glass. His thoughts were a swirling tempest of grief, anger, and a flickering hope that, even in this darkest hour, truth might yet prevail. He revisited every tender memory of happier times, shared smiles, whispered promises, laughter over simple meals, and contrasted them with the cold reality of the evidence he now held in his hands. Encrypted texts, photos of secret meetings, and digital traces linking Aissata to shadowy figures. In that painful juxtaposition, he confronted the duality of human nature, the capacity to love and the susceptibility to be manipulated. Yet Traoré was not one to be bowed by despair. Drawing strength from a lifetime of overcoming adversity, he resolved to transform this searing personal loss into a catalyst for reform. He called together the members of his inner circle once more, this time in a secure and secluded conference room deep within the palace's fortified walls. The room, dimly lit by a few flickering lanterns, bore silent witness to the gravity of the situation. The air was thick with determination as Traoré addressed his most trusted advisors. His voice, resonant with quiet authority and the weight of his own suffering, filled the space. This betrayal strikes at the heart of our values. It is not merely a personal sorrow, but a wake-up call, a reminder that even within our closest bonds, darkness may lurk. We must unravel the tangled web behind this conspiracy and ensure that no thread of deceit goes unchallenged. His words fostered a renewed sense of purpose among his team. They meticulously began re-examining every facet of the investigation, not only to determine the external forces that might have manipulated Aysata, but also to scrutinize any potential weaknesses in the protective measures of their own administration. In long, discreet meetings over countless nights, every piece of evidence was reanalyzed. Every hint of coercion or blackmail was brought under the light of scrutiny. The investigation expanded beyond the walls of the palace, reaching out to trusted international intelligence partners, all while keeping the matter shrouded in utmost secrecy to protect national interests and personal dignity. As Traoré pressed forward, the burden of the betrayal slowly transformed into a beacon for a comprehensive overhaul of internal security protocols. He instituted a series of reforms aimed not just at rooting out corruption and hidden influences, but also at restoring the fragile trust between the state and its people. In heartfelt addresses to his loyal citizens, delivered in quiet but impassioned town hall meetings and regional forums in the bustling heart of Ouagadougou, he openly acknowledged that even a leader could be wounded by treachery. "Our nation stands as a testament to resilience," he declared. "Today's revelations remind us that trust is a delicate treasure to be guarded and nurtured. We will rebuild our institutions not as they were, but as a renewed promise that every citizen's voice is honored and every betrayal met with unwavering justice." Public sentiment, which had been quietly simmering in the wake of various political upheavals, found an unexpected rallying cry in Traoré's openness. As he spoke of vulnerability, accountability, and the painful lessons of his personal journey, citizens began to embrace this moment as a turning point. Supporters filled the streets with banners calling for transparency and unity, while opponents, though still cautious, found themselves grappling with the same age-old questions of loyalty versus duty. The once isolated episode of domestic betrayal had transcended its personal limits, morphing into a symbol of the collective struggle against external manipulation and internal decay within any great system. Behind the scenes, while the investigation continued to peel away layers of deceit, Traoré embarked on a personal quest for understanding and reconciliation. In quiet moments away from the relentless demands of the office, he revisited the cherished teachings of his youth, finding solace in the words of elders who had taught him that every trial is an opportunity for renewal. In his private journal, written with both a sorrowful pen and an unwavering resolve, he recorded, "In the darkest nights of our existence, when the heart breaks and hope seems but a distant star, there lies a profound chance to rebuild, stronger and wiser than before. I will not let this betrayal be the end, but the very forge that is remade in the fires of truth." The turning point came on a cool, clear evening when, after weeks of careful deliberation and gathering irrefutable evidence, Traoré made the difficult decision to address the nation in a live broadcast, a moment that would redefine his legacy. Standing at a podium set against a backdrop depicting the resilient spirit of Burkina Faso, he spoke not with anger, but with a calm, sorrowful dignity. "My fellow citizens," he began, his voice steady and resonant, "today I stand before you not as a man unscarred, but as one who has faced betrayal in its most personal form. The truth is often painfully complex, and though my own heart has been shattered, I pledge to transform that pain into a renewed commitment to justice, transparency, and unity." His words were tinged with both grief and hope, a powerful testimony that even the deepest wounds could give rise to a vision for a better tomorrow. In the days that followed, the nation witnessed sweeping changes. A series of high-level audits, reinforced by a team of international experts, began to dismantle the networks of corruption that had once threatened his leadership. Traoré's personal loss became intertwined with a broader movement, a collective call for accountability that rippled across all sectors of government and society. Despite the lingering shadow of betrayal in his personal life, every measure implemented bore the unmistakable mark of a leader determined to rise above adversity, to safeguard the future with unyielding resolve. Aissata, now grappling with an overwhelming mixture of remorse and regret, was given a chance to explain herself further. Behind closed doors, in a solemn session mediated by trusted counseling and legal advisors, she confessed details that painted a picture of manipulation by external forces intent on exploiting personal vulnerabilities. Though her actions had inflicted deep wounds, the full context of her victimhood emerged, revealing that she had been ensnared in a situation where emotional blackmail and coercion left her little choice but to follow orders. The revelation, though it did little to undo the pain, helped to humanize her actions in the eyes of many who had already begun to demand systemic change. For Traoré, it was another layer in the complex mosaic of betrayal, a reminder that even in the act of spying and deceit, there could be a measure of forced compliance rather than pure malice. On a personal level, the encounter with his own vulnerability led President Traoré to explore new dimensions of leadership. Dimensions that embraced forgiveness as a tool for healing rather than weakness, and accountability as the foundation for rebuilding trust. In countless quiet evenings spent in reflective solitude, he worked through the intricate lessons of loyalty, betrayal, and resilience. He began to see that the scars of deceit, though permanently etched in the annals of his personal history, could also serve as a powerful reminder to remain ever vigilant and compassionate. His transformation was not instantaneous, nor was it devoid of lingering pain, but it reshaped the contours of his vision for his presidency and his country's future. As the final chapters of this painful saga gradually gave way to hope and rejuvenation, the public narrative began to shift from one of personal tragedy to one of national renaissance. The story of a revered leader who had been betrayed by the one person closest to his heart resonated deeply with a populace that had known its own share of hardships. In community centers, on bustling streets, and within the quiet corners of everyday life, people found inspiration in Traoré's unwavering determination. His message was clear. Even the loftiest among us are not immune to the frailties of human nature, but it is in facing those vulnerabilities that true greatness is forged. In one of the most poignant moments of his journey, President Traoré stood before a gathering of citizens in a modest town square. With the setting sun casting long, forgiving shadows, he declared, "Today we turn a painful page. I have learned that a leader's true strength is not measured by the absence of betrayal, but by the courage to stand tall in its aftermath. Let our pain unite us, our scars remind us of our struggles, and our shared aspirations guide us to a brighter future." His words, gentle yet filled with unyielding resolve, spread through the crowd like a healing salve, a promise of renewal and the rebirth of integrity. In the final moments of this journey, as the nation began to heal and a new era dawned on Burkina Faso, the legacy of that fateful period was forever transformed. What began as a tale of personal betrayal ultimately became a powerful testament to the indomitable spirit of leadership. A spirit that, when tested by the harshest truths, can emerge unbroken and even more resolute in its duty to serve the people. Every tear shed, every anguished moment, and every courageous step forward became a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the face of immense loss, the human heart can rebuild and transform despair into the light of a new beginning.